it's tu prima favorita Bobby here, and welcome back to the Cousins Corner. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm tu prima favorita Bobby, and I just like to talk. And today I just have a quick little thought about expecting more from other people than what you are able and willing to give from yourself. I don't want to ramble too much, but I recently had an interaction with somebody, and one of the things they said kind of stuck with me. He was like, I mean, you are kind of closed off or whatever, and it just kind of took me aback for a second. One, it's kind of true, but two, it really just kind of made me pull back for a second, because from the person that it came from, it was kind of surprising. It really made me think in that moment, and I wish I had said it, but I think just in that moment I had so many other things just on my mind. And we talked a little bit more about it afterwards or whatever, but it was surprising to me, because I'm like, you say that, but you're projecting, just flat out, because you two are extremely closed off. And then two, you don't make an effort to try to get to know me more. And when I make an effort to try to get to know you more, you kind of slap away my efforts. Like, you kind of either downplay them or you remain at surface level. And maybe he doesn't notice that he was doing these things within our conversations, but I noticed. Because I'm not gonna say like I'm super calculated all the time. I like to let conversation just kind of flow as it is. But I also do understand, like, if I have an interest in you and I want to get to know you, I am gonna ask certain questions and I'm gonna gauge how you respond to them. And it just seemed like a lot of the times our conversations just seem to be pretty surface level, even if I try to dig a little bit deeper. And I wasn't trying to get this man to like trauma bond with me or anything like that, but it's just like, you don't really give me much yourself, but you're telling me that I'm closed off. And I'm like, you don't even act like you want to know more. So to tell me that I'm closed off and then proceed to ask me if I'm afraid of being perceived, I'm like, okay, now it sounds like you're just saying things that you heard or that you picked up on from things that you listened to. And granted, he could have really been asking me those questions because he was curious about that in that moment. But I'm like, you don't lead with you're really trying to get to know me, so why would I just come to you with everything just out on the table like that? And vice versa, I don't expect that of you, because even when I try, you don't seem like you are willing to open up. So anyway, I say that to say asking people for what you yourself are not providing is something that you need to be mindful of. And I think that is something that a lot of people do. I think people do it in friendships, people definitely do it in relationships, people do it in life in general. And with you walking through life expecting other people to show up on this level that you yourself are not showing up on, that's not fair. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to you either. It's like, what are you learning from it? But it's not fair to ask something of somebody else that you're not willing to put out. That's like asking someone to pay for something that y'all are supposed to be going half on, but you're telling them, well, show me you can cover the whole thing first and then I'll put my half in. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you want something from somebody, if you want someone to show up in a way, and I'm not saying that you take the responsibility off the other person either, but you are the one that brought it up. So if that's something that bothers you, or if that's something that you're curious about, or if that's something that you want to see more from that person, feel free to bring it up, but also recognize where you're not putting forth the effort also. Like, I can't ask you to show up for me in a way, or to show up to me in a way that I'm not willing to. I can't ask you to be open and vulnerable with me if I'm not myself going to be open and vulnerable with you. Because then from your end, it's looking like I'm just fishing for things, or I'm trying to get to know more about you, but I'm not willing to let myself be open either. And like I said, in that conversation, he addressed that. He was like, well, yeah, I'm kind of closed off too. And we both agreed that it's like, well, yeah, I don't feel comfortable being more open if it doesn't feel like, you know, this is a safe space for me and that you're able to hold space for me. But I don't think he understood the bigger picture of, like, you say this about me, but you don't act like you want to get to know more. I'm willing to be open, but I'm not going to just flat out just lay it all out on the line like that when I don't feel like this is a safe place where you're able to hold space for me. So I say that to just say, like, watch what it is that you're asking for from other people. Don't just be saying stuff because it sounds good or it sounds cute or whatever the case may be. If you are ready and willing to give what it is that you ask from other people, then have that conversation or lead with that. Sometimes we do have to set the tone in certain friendships or relationships or connections with other people to let them know, like, hey, I want to hold this space for you, and I want to make sure that you're able to hold it for me as well. Which is why I'm like communicate. If you know me, then you know that I value communication. I value being open and honest, even when you don't necessarily know the exact right words to say. It's like, express yourself. Like, take a moment. If you are upset, because you don't need to be gritando at people, like, we don't need all of that. But if it's something that's like bothering you or something that's on your mind, like, gather your thoughts and bring it to that person and have that conversation. So it's just like, for him to say that within that conversation, I'm like, well, you've never said that to me before. You've never before said anything about me being closed off, because had you said that before, we could have had a conversation about that. And I could have known, oh, okay, so you do want to get to know me more. Okay, so what do you want to get to know? Or where are some places that I feel like I could be more vulnerable so that we can get to know each other more? But it's like, you never said that. So I just thought because you would shut me down when, you know, I tried to get deeper with you, that's just not what you wanted. That's just not where you wanted this to go, which does make me feel, you know, that I'm just going to remain closed off, because I'm going to protect myself if this is not a space that can be held for me to be more open and be more vulnerable. So I just, again, say that to say, don't be out here asking people for stuff that you're not ready to put in on. Like, if you want openness from people, you need to lead with openness. If you want vulnerability from somebody else, you need to lead with vulnerability. And again, I'm not saying put all of your stuff out on the line for somebody who's not doing it. If you feel like that is something that you want and that's something that you're not seeing, have that conversation with that person. If you feel like you need to have that conversation, or mention it. Don't wait until things blow up or are ending or whatever the case may be to then bring forth your feelings. Like, say it. And if they reject it or reject the thought, or they're like, no, I don't necessarily want to do that, then you move accordingly. And this even goes for myself, para mí misma. A lot of times I feel like we make assumptions about how other people are feeling or about how things are going just based off of what we're seeing, which I'm not saying that that's wrong. But sometimes it genuinely takes opening that box and having uncomfortable conversations with people, with our friends, with our family members, with our partners, with ourselves, to really just set the tone of where we want this to go, of how we want this to move. I want more openness. I value more communication. I value more connection. I wish that we could talk more about these things. I feel a type of way when you brush over these things. When I tell you how I feel and you react in this certain way, it makes me feel ignored or unheard or whatever the case may be. Like, normalize hablando, normalize talking, normalize communicating with people about the way that you feel. And I really do feel like in this culture and climate, there is a lot, especially when it comes to dating, that's like, people should know. And on some aspects, it's like, people should know. People should know how to treat you like a human being, like a decent human being. The bare minimum, people should know that. You shouldn't be teaching people how to give you the bare minimum. But I feel like there's a lot of, don't say anything, move in silence, just get up and walk away. If it's blatant disrespect, I completely, 100% agree with that. But there are some times where you need to communicate. You need to communicate your needs to people. You can't walk around with this assumption that just because this person did this or this person said this or this event happened or this didn't happen or whatever, that you're just assuming then I guess they must feel like this about me, or they don't like me, or they don't want to get to know me, or they love me, or whatever the case may be. This is why communication is important. because we do all of this internal, or at least I know that I do, we do all of this internal ruminating. We have these conversations with ourselves about other people. We ruminate their responses. We overthink things versus asking questions. And what I've started to realize about myself sometimes is that I ruminate over conversations because I didn't ask the questions that I feel like I should have asked when I was in that conversation. So then after it's over, I'm going back over and over in my head about how things could have been different, or what did this mean, or did I say this clearly, or did they mean this? They must have meant that, or they, whatever the case may be. And I get into my mind of all of these assumptions because I didn't ask the questions that I should have asked. And sometimes, you know, it might be too late. It's like, okay, well, I guess I just got to chalk that up and take that L and know that the next time I get into this type of conversation with somebody or situation or whatever with somebody, that I need to ask these certain questions, or I need to not be afraid to speak out on how I feel the first time. And other times it's just, okay, I need to go back and revisit. I need to call this person back and be like, hey, I didn't really understand that. I don't like the way that things left off. I don't feel like I spoke myself clearly. I don't feel like I really understood what it was that you were talking about, you know? And in a society that's always pushing, just cut them off and move on to the next. Just avoid the conversation and move on to the next. I don't want to deal with anything that doesn't bring me peace. I think that we're overlooking a very important piece here that involves the communication, that involves showing up in a way that we want people to show up for us. You cannot expect people to just assume that, oh, you're just open and you're gonna hold space for me, if you don't first show it. And you cannot assume that people know exactly how to treat you if you don't first show it, or know how you like to be communicated with if you don't set that out there. If you don't have those conversations. And maybe I need to make a video about having difficult conversations, because as a person who works in the social emotional learning field with children and families, as I do myself, tu directora favorita here, difficult conversations are necessary for life. They just are. And sometimes we do that. We overthink how difficult a conversation has to be, and it doesn't even have to be that hard most of the time if you're just willing to open that up and show that communication. And that's why one reason why communication is so important for me, because I like to lead with that, so people know that anytime something is bothering you about me, anytime I've said something that rubbed you the wrong way, anytime that you have a disagreement with me, or I said something off-putting or made you feel a type of way, or you just feel a type of way and you just want to talk to me, I like for people to know that I'm open for that. And the way that I let people know that I'm open for that is that I lead with that. And granted, I'm not perfect at it. There are times where, again, I go inward and I start having the conversations with myself instead of bringing it straight to the person. And then I bring it up after the fact. And I'm working on that, because I know that if I'm expecting someone to be open and communicative with me, then I have to show up open and communicative. And I can't just wait until things get so heavy that I can't carry them myself anymore. So now I need to go tell them, and it's not really the right time, or whatever the case may be. It's like, normalize showing up in the way that you want other people to show up. And I just use communication as an example, just because for me that's a big thing, and that has been a really big learning thing for me, because I was very much a person that used to shy away from conflict. I didn't want to talk about, you know, difficult things. I think being in my line of work and my career job has really helped shape me into a person that leans more into conversation or communication, especially when it's uncomfortable. And it also has taught me to lean more into, if you want people to show up a certain way, you have to show up that way and show it for them. You have to show them that I'm here and that I'm open, that I like to communicate, that I can hold space for you, so that they can know, okay, they can do the same on their end. And again, if you don't feel comfortable just showing up and being like, hi, I'm here and I'm holding space for you, have a conversation with that person so that they know that, so that they know what you expect out of them, or you expect out of y'all's relationship, what you expect out of y'all's connection. So then y'all can decide, okay, are we able to hold space for each other, or are we just not compatible in that, right? And this again can be with friends, this could be with, you know, lovers or people that you're dating, or relationships, or family members, or, you know, partners in business, or whatever the case may be. So anyways, I talked a little lot, and I know y'all heard the little jingles. I'm getting ready to go to a Christmas like cookie decorating event, little shindig with some friends. So, you know, I had to get a little festive. So if you're hearing jingling, it's just my sweater, that's all. But anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So please feel free to drop what you feel, if you agree, if you disagree, if you got a little bit more to add, please, por favor, leave your comments. I love to read them. I love to engage with y'all. Again, thank you for joining me today here in the Cousins Corner. This is tu prima favorita, Bobby, and I just like to talk, and I will see you next time. Bye.